Vous say hi? Non, maman, je m'en cuddles. Ah. I don't like that, Mom. This is not what Gus likes. Gus doesn't like it. Actually, Gus doesn't mind. Whatever. Can I say good morning? We say hi to the nice people who come to visit you. We don't get many visitors, do we? So it's nice to have people visit. Gus likes to have people visit. He acts like he has never been pet or loved in his whole life. He instantly betrays all of his humans who live here. And immediately, just acts like we don't care about him at all. Just immediately loves other humans. I mean, if you're on the other side of the door, he acts like he's gonna kill you. In fact, the best ever is, you know how sometimes the delivery people have to take a picture when they leave your package? So the best, I really love to check the pictures, because sometimes they get Gus. We have a glass, there's a glass inset in our front door. And so sometimes they get Gus in midair, in the picture, and it's really the best thing ever. Because this is who Gus really is. If said delivery person walked over the doorstep, this is exactly what he would be like. He'd be like, love me. He's such a turkey. He's just got the tiny dog syndrome. He's just really afraid of everything. And so he just has to bark at it. I mean, thank you for being an example of so much of who we are right now, Gus. Thank you for being that example. Let's just all cuddle on each other and be nicer, please. This is a much happier Gus than the one who is barking like a lunatic at their glass front door. I think you ought to go on a tour, Gus. Oh, he smells so good. Hey! Hello! And welcome to the Let's Girl Speaks. Today is Friday. It's February 5th. And this is episode 299, maybe 89. I'm Amy Beth, also known as the Fat Squirrel on Ravelry and the Fat SQRRL on Instagram. So last week when we started to talk, I had so much to talk about. I was for days ahead of time, parsing it out and making lists. And then this day I came to talk to you and I thought, I don't even know if I can do a podcast today. And I came and I looked at my notes that I had kept, and there was literally one thing on the notes, which I will tell you right now. And it was to apologize. Last week I was talking about sewing pattern companies, and I used the word petite incorrectly. I used the word petite as the counter, as the, what's the opposite of synonym? Antonym? I used the word petite as the counter to the word fat. And in fact, I know better. Petite is the word that we use to mean short. It is the word that we use to mean a person that is below or is shorter than the average. So I think of somebody who is like in my head, I think of like, oh, somebody who's like 5'2", somebody, you know, a woman who is a shorter woman. And so that is my mistake. Thank you very much to the person who put in the show notes and pointed that out for me. I appreciate you. You're absolutely correct. Just like, you know, again, and I know that there is a sewing pattern company. Oh, and it immediately just left my brain. But like, I know there's a sewing pattern company that specifically specializes in petite women who are also plus size. You know, so that's definitely, and I, for example, I am I'm 5'6.5", 5'7". I thought I was 5'7", 5'8" forever. Apparently I'm not. Anyway, I'm not a short woman. Like, I'm taller than the average woman, but like, for example, I, for a long time, had to buy petite jeans at Lane Bryant because, like, again, there's this like thought that as you get fatter, you magically also get taller. And while I am taller, I also have shorter legs. Like, I have a lot of my height in my torso. So, you know, but anyway, petite is to reference, and so I apologize. That is absolutely correct. And it was funny because after you posted that, my daughter and I had this. She got on this kick about misinformation, like things that you think are true that are not true, and like there were all. I don't remember anything specifically. I apologize. But it was like all of these things that we have just thought were true that like are not. They're just like continued to be proliferated throughout history. And I was all like, look at me being responsible for telling an untruth. I better correct that right away. Granted, I'm sure I tell many, many untruths and I don't realize it. But if I tell one that I realize, I should really correct it. So thank you for that opportunity. But so that was the only note I had for this week. One line, and last week was like 2 pages completely packed. I was like, oh no. And then this week too, I literally no knitting. I knit because I'm gonna put you down, okay, buddy? I know, look how sad you are. I say goodbye. All bye, people. Oh, my cuddles have come to an end. Go cuddle upstairs. Literally only knitting I have gotten done. By the way, what is going on with this? I feel like this should have come with a long denim skirt. I'm like gotten confused with the Bessie bun versus the denim skirt bun. It's apparel. Like the only knitting I did in 2 weeks. I mean, I may have knit like a row on my Stephen West shawl. I knit a little bit on my Crunkle socks by the Bakery Bears, but like, and by the way, they are so enjoyable. This is the this year's holiday yarn by West Yorkshire Spinners. It's Silent Night. It is glittery. It is so enjoyable. I will not lie. It's so enjoyable. And even though I really am enjoying the more complicated socks to knit, and I'm really enjoying the non-nylon socks to wear right now, this is still just so pleasant. And also I'm really liking just how this stitch texture feels. It's like ribby and very enjoyable. But that's like all the knitting I've done. How is that possible? What's going on? I'm not sure what. I did do a lot of other things, but like. So anyway, I did think some more, and I was like, oh, there are things we could talk about. Then I remembered, like, oh, that's right. Don't let the idea of like, I mean, perfectionism is far from what we do here normally, but like, don't let this idea of being good at this like get in the way of getting this done, because like, you know, not everyone can be a, you know, so you just gotta do them, and then they'll be, that's okay, right? So thank you for coming over. I have coffee. We have no baked goods, but are you ready for it? This is how much I love you. can have a Sumo. That's right, it's Sumo season. You could totally have one. If you've not been with me last year, these are Sumos. They are a kind of, well, they're a citrus. What did we decide last year? That they're a type of, whatever. They're their own thing, y'all. They are, this one is not, they're amazing. The quality control of the Sumo is miraculous. Like, if you've ever just been so excited to get an orange and then you eat the orange and you're like, just like crushed. You know what I mean? Like, so disappointed that the orange that you pulled out of your tattered stocking that Ma and Pa Ingalls gave you for Christmas Eve just did not quite live up to all of your dreams. The Sumo just very, very, very rarely lets you down. I would say like 1 in 12 is mediocre and the rest are really good. Now, they are expensive, and that is really what would be required for me to buy them. They're like $2 a piece frequently. I'm not even kidding you. I like to pretend in my head that they're meat. That's how I justify their price. They're very cheap for meat. And then you get to be like, free range meat. Right? Cruelty-free meat. It's a bargain. Okay, we got some stimulus dollars coming. Stimulus orange. I'm teasing. They are an extravagance. We definitely have. I am not a budget. I have to admit, I've never been a grocery budgeter. That's terrible. I've always been like, I have in my past been like, I have $37. That's my budget. But I've never been like I have $400 and I'm spending $100. I've just, like, do you know what I mean? Like, my budget has been like just what I literally have available. Does that make sense? I that's probably why I'm not a rich person. Like, I don't know how to, I understand how to budget, but I don't know how to budget. So like, where was this going? Where was I going? But you can totally have one. You should totally have one. They're delicious. And like, I would totally, if this were a pomegranate, I would still eat it. Like, that's how delicious they are. The trade-off is worth that amount of work. But then you add to that like, this, I'm not peeling it because this is yours. And I don't want to consume my ration at this moment. But like this thing, like the Sumo knot, that's why they're called Sumos. Okay, I like to call them Sumos because they're super fat, and I love that about them. Also, do you know that sumo wrestlers are super fat but also super healthy? Just saying. Because they do, like, they're so active that the fat in their bodies is all pushed outside of their their organs. So like, it's a layer on the outside of their body, and they're like, I just think they're fascinating. Anyway, but so they're fat, but then this is also like their top knot. That's why they're called Sumo. So this part just like pops off, and then like they're oftentimes, like, the first time I bought them, I was afraid that they were bad because they were like loose, like they kind of almost rattled. And at first I thought, I was like, this has to be either amazingly good because it's unattractive. Like, this is actually kind of a pretty one. But there's like super knobbly. And then again, that like, it was like loose in its skin. And I was like, this is expensive for something that doesn't look that good. I was like, these are either amazing or something is really weird when I first tried one. They're amazing, in case you didn't figure that out. But so sometimes they like almost feel like they're rattling in there. And so they are like mega easy to peel. Like a toddler can peel one. Don't give them to toddlers. Just give that kid a clementine. I mean, unless you're just like course. Then you do you. What are you watching this for? They're so awesome. Sometimes if I'm having my ration after Gus has gone to bed with my daughter, I will let Annie have a tiny little bit because Annie really loves them. Annie is our dog. But she's a dog, and like I know she really loves them, but she's a dog. I feel really conflicted about it. Like sometimes I'll give her half a section, but then I'm just like, Annie, do you understand how much I love you? Would you like a piece of ham? I would rather give you a piece of ham. Also, they're really fun if you peel them and like if you're rationing your ration out through like rationing your ration out through the day and you like don't cover it up. They're also really fun if they get sort of dried out and then they get kind of crunchy on the outside. Then that's a whole different experience. Basically, just go get some if it's in your budget and you're a budgeter. Just make your family eat hot dogs one day. It's fine. I know, but whatever. It's not gonna kill them to eat a hot dog. Eat an organic one or something. Whatever. Eat a hot dog. There's so many pollutants in the air. It's fine. Did you see that? It's not a meme because it's a video of the woman who's talking about the vaccine. And she's like, he's talking about whether or not she's going to get the vaccine. And she's like, I mean, do I know what's in the vaccine? No. But have I also eaten 1,000 pieces of American cheese in my life? Yes. So am I going to get the vaccine? Probably. I appreciate her honesty. But if you're not a citrus person, I feel you. It's also pretty good at apple time. I don't know why. I guess they're just like coming out of cold storage, but whatever. The opal apple is very nice if you are a sweet apple fan. It has a nice, dense, crisp texture. Like I'm not a fan of the Honey Crisp. I know. I'm just not a fan. But the opal's kind of like similar to like a Golden Delicious, but like when it's really good. Because Golden Delicious get mealy like super quick, right? So the opal is sort of like a Golden Delicious, but like when it's in its most delicious form. And it's a little bit more complex than a Golden Delicious. Not quite as good as a Gold Rush if you've had those. Not quite as like, whoo, sommelier, pomelier level. But still quite delicious. And then there's a new one that I've never had before that's called like Kenzie. Something with a K. Those are really good. I've never had those before. Those are very good. And then there's like a Lady Alice. I like those quite a bit this year. I did have those last year too, but those are good. Those are both like a sweet, like a tartar. There's like a sweet tart apple that is also like a good firm texture. Not like as firm as like what's that one called? A Granny Smith's. But pretty good. And more consistent than a Pink Lady. Pink Ladies I really like, but sometimes like they have consistency things, which is funny because they're all genetic clones, but they have that weird like inside bruising issue. I don't know what that is. Do you know what that is? It's the only apple that I've had that has that problem. I've never really seen that with another apple. Like sometimes you cut into them and they're like oxidized like on the inside. What is that? Do you know what that is? I guess I could Google it. I think I have tried to Google it before and Google did not know what I was talking about. Google was like, you're drunk, go home. And I was like, no, Google, this is a real thing. And Google was like, no, really? I was like, fine. But I don't know what that is. Anyhow. Oh my gosh, is it still visible? I drove me crazy last time when I edited the podcast. This ugly thing was here. Did it drive you crazy that the butt of this thing was showing? This is the like water thing for my steam press, which also comes in quite handy for filling irons because it has this like, it is so ugly, but it is so handy. Usually I have my camera angled down lower, but I just hasn't, I don't know what, whatever. It was just, but I felt like I needed to address the, like, the fartiness of this thing. It's ugly. I hate that word. My mama used to like think that that was like, well, she didn't think it was a curse word, but like she treated it like a curse word, and I will drop the actual F-bomb all day long. That word kind of makes me, the fart word kind of makes me cringe a little bit. It's true. Sorry, I'm a test sew. I'm a test sewer. I've never test sewn anything. And now I'm suddenly in 2 test sews. How did that happen? Which might also be why I didn't get I didn't get any knitting done. It's like my fat civic duty, y'all. I mean, I'm so excited that these pattern companies are finally making stuff for fat people that like, when they're like, we need like we need like a size 30 sewist to test us. I'm like, well, I'm here. I will test your thing because this is like my responsibility. Okay. Do you know what I mean? Okay. Okay, what are we doing? I'm so distracted by my closer to God hair. It's very confusing. What am I wearing? Not the best. That's what I'm wearing. It is a Brooklyn tweed pattern, and it's knit in Quarry, which is their single ply. Stop. I know. It's their single ply yarn in the like, whatever. It's the navy blue color. I have kind of a navy. I'm discovering that I have kind of a navy blue like soft spot. It's like my neutral of choice. It's actually, I don't know that it's my neutral of choice. I think it's fancy. I'm just going to admit that. I think navy blue, in the words of my mama, is classy. Every time I see it, I'm like, ooh. And I don't use that word in my brain at all. But I'm always like, ooh. Ooh. Like this quilted vest that I'm sewing for myself, by the way, not classy. But like it has a lot of navy blue in it, and like I'm sewing these little freaking squares, and then I'm pressing them and they look so crisp. And there's all this navy blue, and it's just like, ooh. So, ooh. Like every time I iron one and it's got like this line and it's navy in there, and I'm just like, it's like scrummy. Love it. I don't know. It's just like a thing. I don't understand it. Anyway, there's nothing wrong with the pattern, and there's nothing inherent. Here's the yarn, because this is the reason I put it on is because I actually thought about it. Here's the yarn. It is a single ply. It's a bulky. I knew better. In fact, when they introduced it, I thought to myself, I actually laughed just like that in my head. What lunatic would make a sweater out of single ply bulky yarn? That's terrible. That's a recipe for disaster, and it's expensive. People, that's crazy. As I sit in my single ply bulky expensive yarn sweater, sometimes it just hits you in a moment, and then they like put out a design that you're just like, oh, and it's just, I don't know what happens. But I would definitely not recommend it. I mean, even me, like when I was buying it, I knew. It's like that that person that you date and you're just like, I know this is a train wreck. I know this is a bad decision. I know there's a lot of bad decisions that are happening all at once. But I'm just going to enjoy the good decisions that are happening amongst the bad ones. It was like that. So yeah. Why am I even looking it up? It's a Brooklyn tweed pattern, y'all. Maybe I'll put it in the show notes. But I do enjoy it. It's definitely like a house sweater because it pills like crazy because it's a single ply yarn. It's a woolen spun, single ply, bulky yarn. It's got a hole in it already and I've worn it only like a dozen times. Still cozy and good though. It's a great house sweater. But the reason I thought about it is because, oh my God, I mean, I need couples counseling so bad. Can we like have some, I don't need like a wife swap, but maybe for knits. Can we do that? Because like I just, like I'll knit for your partner and you knit for my partner. And like, that's probably like a healthier thing. Can we get that going? Is that a thing that can happen? Like maybe I just need to sew the hat. Maybe I should do that. Maybe I should sew like a fleece hat or like a quilted hat. He would probably really like that. My husband thinks he's like eccentric and fun, which I guess he is. This film will be used in the divorce proceedings. Anyway, he's so flippin' particular. Like this hat is now a centimeter too tall. Like not even a centimeter. That's too much. It is like 5 millimeters too tall. And he's like fiddling with it. I don't like it at all. He likes it. It's just that it's a 5 millimeters too tall. It covers 5 millimeters of his ear. Anyway, so I was using this, I had some of this quarry yarn left over. So I thought, oh, maybe I should try to do crochet, because what I think he really wants is more of like a woven fabric. Like he doesn't actually want a stretch, because the hat that he likes is felted now. And so it has like a woven, he wants like a really rigid structure. Like again, he doesn't want it to like stretch or move or anything. Like he wants like essentially like a woven thing, but he wants it to be very warm, like a knit thing. So I thought, well, maybe I'll try this crochet, because it kind of falls in between, right? Like it has less stretch to it, and it is thicker because it's more of like knot work, and so it might work better for what he actually wants, and it's enjoyable. It's a nice different thing to do for me. And so anyway, so I tried, and so I did like a double band, because he likes this like kind of, I don't know, all I can think of is like my great uncle-in-law ish. I don't even know if that's a thing. But anyway, he was Yugoslavian, and he had a hat that was very similar to this, except it was like this shape, like this. And so that's all I can think of when I see it. But anyway, so he likes this like flat bit here, and then just like, whatever. So I thought, okay, I'll make like a band that folds in half. And I thought to myself, like that way it'll be slightly more flexible, right? Like it can fold up a little bit, but it can only fold up so much before it becomes kind of ridiculous. But whatever, it's fine. I don't know what's going on. It's crazy town. Maybe he'll like it. I did just like wash it. I kind of like shocked it a little bit, hoping it would kind of like pull it down just a tiny bit, but we'll see. Yeah, whatever. So I just like crocheted basically a band that I knew I would be doubling. And then I crocheted a circle and then just stitched them together. And I did the crochet circle from the inside out because that was like so much easier than trying to figure out how to do it from the outside in. So yeah, that's what I did. It's kind of fun. I did this like crochet granny spike because it's my new favorite thing. The one that I'm using for my my fancy vest. Apparently I'm just going to do this podcast completely out of order. Okay, yeah, that's what we're doing now. So I made this crazy thing, but it's kind of fun, and it is super warm. Because that is one of the really great things about the woolen spun, the single ply. It's so cozy. And so you can imagine that having it crocheted and double is like, ooh, wow. And it is much more durable, obviously, if you're getting it knotted up and things like that. And again, it's a little bit fold, just a tiny bit, but just a little bit fold. So yeah, we'll see. Silly husband. And then I'll show you a little bit more of my vest that is that I'm working on. So got the back done-ish. Now I realize I was just crocheting away, and then I need to actually like do some shoulder, angling, but I didn't want to think. So I need to go back and do some shoulder slips. But yeah, so I'm starting on the front bits. I'm doing the fronts are bigger than the back for boobage. So I'll be doing some decreases for boob pockets. They do kind of feel like pockets when you do crochet decreases because they definitely cause more of, they're not as subtle. Like the crochet decreases are not as subtle as the, in this kind of stitch anyway. They're not as subtle as the knit decreases. So they do have a slightly more, three-dimensional effect than the knit decreases. Like, I don't know if you could, well, you definitely won't be able to see it. But they definitely have more of a pouching effect. So it does feel more like a boob pocket. If you're interested in knowing what my yarns were, thank you to somebody who requested. I did make a Ravelry page, so it is actually out there. If you're curious about what any of the yarns are, they are all listed. And, yeah, right. I'm pretty excited about it. I actually really do want to finish it because I really want to wear it. There have been several times we've gone out for walks. I'm like, oh, that would be the perfect thing to wear right now. If I were not making it with scraps, like if I were actually designing it as a pattern, I definitely would have made like this section up a solid color because I feel like that would have really been the right vibe. And I really waffled. I thought, oh, if I would have had the like perfect like mossy green yarn in stash to do it, I probably would have just gone with it. But I thought, oh, I can't justify buying a new yarn just to, but boy, it's been tempting. I don't know, I might still do it. Maybe just on the fronts. And I feel like that's really like the aesthetic, right? Like just do the mossy, like do the, like just from like the here up and the collar, of course. And then the bands, like the zipper band and the armhole. And then my friend Corey was like, and you must do a tag. So I need puns for my tag. Like Fatagonia. I'm sure that they're gonna, I can't do that. Like Patagonia is gonna come after me. need some funny thing for a tag. I like also need to like be able to make a tag. Whatever, I can embroider a tag, right? But anyway, so I need a funny tag. Do you want to be a pun? You want to pun it up with me? I need a tag. Oh my goodness. Okay, so that's all the wool content. If you're only here for wool, I'll talk to you next time. Okay, but let's talk about some sewing stuff. Okay, let's do it. Wait, do we have anything else? Oh, wait, before you go, if you want other stuff, let's talk about other stuff. So over the place. Okay, so here's my weird stuff for the week. Okay, so this has been a weird thing. Has this ever happened to you? Usually when I'm working, I listen to audiobooks, and I usually listen to them either on 1.25 speed or, have you noticed this? Lots of my apps now have like variable speed. Like it used to be that you had to click like 1.25, 1.5. Now lots of them have sliders. So like you can select 1.3. So 1.3 is awesome for me. But something has happened and I can't listen. Actually, I had this weird thing where I literally couldn't listen to audiobooks like at all. I have not been able to listen to audiobooks for like 3 weeks now, or podcasts, like words. What is that? Has that ever happened to you? I don't understand what happened. Like anytime I would sit down to sew, like that is my thing. I sit down to sew and I either listen to an audiobook or I listen to a podcast. And like lots of times I just listen to junk audiobooks. Like I listen to Cozy Mysteries. Like it's almost just like having like background noise on. It's not like I'm engaging in any sort of like, so like, you know what I mean? It's not like my brain is fried and I can't concentrate on this like great intellectual thing that's happening. Like it was like I couldn't handle having the words. Isn't that strange? I don't know if it's just like the, yeah, that's been a new one. And I let it just be that way for a while, it was just very strange. And then I started to listen just a little bit at a time on regular speed. And I listened to, I've never ever, that's not true. I listened to like, when I worked for the man, I listened to, what is the, Outlander. I listened to that. I'm not even lying to you. When I listened to Outlander, when I worked in a cube, okay, I am not, I don't know, maybe I am, whatever. I totally would like be like, I would be listening to Outlander and there's some like, you know, there's some like romantic-y, like there's some sex scenes. And I would totally be in my cube like, oh, clutching pearls. Ridiculous, right? Anyway, but I'm not like I'm not a romance listener. I'm not against romances, like that is your jam, bless you. Like it's just not usually something I enjoy. Like it's just not my jam. But Audible has these like short story romances that are like an hour long and they're mostly like kind of like rom-coms. And like all of a sudden I'm listening to like all of those on regular speed. Like that's all my brain really is interested in. And lots of them are actually like not lots of them, but many of them are actually performed. Like what is that, brain? Why is that what we want? I don't know. Just put it out there as like a random thing. If you identify like in terms of like just like a strange thing that you're going through. I don't know, it's very weird. I've never had this happen. I don't know. It'll be interesting to see if it changes or if it's just like I hope it is not the new normal, because there's only so many of these very short rom-coms out there. That's gonna be weird. I mean, and I have been able to listen to. That kind of was like the start of the like, okay, and I have been able to, like, I listened to and I was also listening to When Nations Fail, like, as a counter to that, because I was listening to NPR the other day and they were talking about, there was like just a very brief snippet about, like, because so the premise of When Nations Fail is, like, what creates, well, again, why some nations fail and some are successful, and like why, and when they mean successful, they mean like why are the majority of citizens successful versus in some nations there, you know, is widespread poverty and a great widespread inequality and a really uneven distribution of wealth and resources. And so they were talking about how some economies are extractive, meaning they very briefly used the example of, in Mexico, there was a telephone, I think specifically telephone, contract that went out to a man who just basically did a terrible job of the telephone and communication systems, billed, you know, all of the citizens for these services, and basically gave nothing back and just extracted all of this wealth from people. So that was an example of an extractive system, right? Like, the government allowed it to happen because they granted him this contract. And so it was an extractive system where he was able to take out money from the system and give nothing back. And so talking about, like, you know, there are different systems that invest in greater things for the culture, the community, the systems versus the extractive ones, and like what that does for, anyway, so that like was like such a piqued interest that I've never heard it explained that way, and so that was very interesting, so I started to read that. So Why Nations Fail, very interesting. And then also I'm reading so I tried to read some different stuff. Like, I tried to read Tales from the Hinterland, which is not usually the thing I would read. It's more of like a fantasy, which couldn't read that. Tried to read a mystery, couldn't do that. And now I'm reading Eleanor Oliphant, which I actually am enjoying, which is also not normally my jam when I'm sewing, because it's classified as literature versus, again, usually I'm like a cozy mystery, like super light thing. But anyway, it's just I don't know if you experienced that difference in, like, have you suddenly gone to like a different genre, or like, are you typically an audiobook person and now you're like, no, I can only read ebooks? Or are you typically an ebook person and like, no, you're like, now I need a hard paper, I need a a hard copy? Or, I know, it's just, I don't know, it's interesting. Like, do you think it's, just putting it out there, have you experienced anything like that where you're like, is this related to what's going on, or is this just specifically like a weird flux in my own body chemistry that something has happened and it's coincidental that the timeline is matching up? I put it out there. Because it is interesting. Like, I don't normally consider myself, like, I feel like I'm pretty good at like measuring risk and like understanding risk and like, you know, being able to say like, well, yes, this is a risky thing, but I also drive a car and that's a risky activity. But like, I've had this weird, like, you know, for example, like 3 months ago when we would go hiking, I felt very comfortable like having a mask with me. And like when we would pass people or like when we would see people, I would put a mask on, you know, like when they were far away, I would put a mask on, and as we would pass them, and then they would be in the distance, and then I would take a mask off, and I felt very comfortable with that. But now I feel like I can't take, I feel like I want the mask on the whole time, which is really hard for me personally, because like I feel like I can wear a mask no problem, like when we're doing everyday normal stuff. But when we are like hiking, I do have a lot of problem like getting enough oxygen. Like I really do. I'm not trying to complain, but I'm just saying like it is problematic for me to breathe enough when we are hiking. Like I have a lot of tissues to oxygenate. And I am mildly asthmatic. And it's like really, but it's like this weird thing where like I could just, it's like, I think it's because we've been so flooded with like infographics of like germ trails and stuff. Like I could just like, it's in my brain and it's all I can see now. And like, again, I understand, like, I'm like, that's okay. I'll just ride my bike in my basement. Maybe I'll just only walk very slowly outside. It's really weird. I don't know. It's just strange how it just, your brain can get so morphed. And I'm not saying it's for good or for, like, I'm not saying that shouldn't be a change in my brain. I'm not saying that should. It's just, it is a change. Like, and the disease is no different now than it was. I mean, maybe it's marginally different, but it's no different now than it was 2-3 months ago when I had a different response to it. But I do have a very different response now. Like I don't want to take that mask off. Like even when I'm like, I mean, I will, obviously, if I cannot breathe, I will take it off or slow, but I really don't want to. Like, I'm like, nobody around. And I know that stuff stays in the air. Like, that's what I mean. Like, that stuff stays in the air, and so that's all I can think about. And again, that my stuff, I'm less worried about my stuff staying there because I do know that, like, we just never leave the house. But that is part of my thinking too, is like I don't want to harm anybody else who maybe can't wear a mask, or again is having the same thing I am, where they're like they want to wear a mask and they're mostly wearing a mask, but every once in a while they have to be able to like catch up a little bit. Anyway. I don't know, just touching base with y'all. Just touching base. It's just one of these things where like these are like the little things that it's hard to talk about because like you don't talk about with them because like you don't have these like small conversations. Like I had to go in for a blood draw this week, and like just talking to the little lady at the blood draw place, like she was just like those little tiny like very casual conversations that are kind of just about nothing. Those are they don't happen. And I mean, I don't necessarily miss them, but they are nice. Like that was a nice little exchange, and it was pleasant, and it was an effort. Like it was like it was a plus in the humanity column, right? Like that was a plus, and it helps to balance out some of the like ugh. And so I don't know, we need more pluses. And like I know that like ultimately like I'm kind of ish paying that person, and she is in the service industry, but whatever. It was still a pleasant exchange, and she was very nice, and like again we just kind of. So anyway, you can have the orange. Okay, what else? I'm sorry. I'm not sorry. Thanks for listening to me try to organize thoughts about pandemic thought fatigue. Oh, another thing that I've found, thank you so much for recommending. I apologize, I'm not sure. I can no longer remember. I feel like I can kind of remember who you were, but I'm not exactly positive, and I tried to find it on Instagram, but then I gave up. But thank you for recommending the Completely Arbitrary podcast. So that's arbor as in Arbor Day, as in tree. Completely Arbitrary podcast. So enjoyable. If you're interested in just like fun knowledge, or if you're particularly interested in trees, it's very enjoyable. I've only listened to one episode. They're pretty shortish. I think there's like, I don't know, I feel like it was like 25-ish minutes. I'm just totally making that up. The one I listened to was about black walnuts, and it was highly entertaining. And I also learned that I have learned my whole life that the black walnuts are poisonous to their neighbors, right? Apparently that is highly debatable. Oh, I should have given you a spoiler alert. Whatever, you want to listen anyway, right? You want to listen. I said it's debatable. Whatever, I should have spoiler alerted you. But still, listen. This week's is about ginkgos. I'm so excited. I love the ginkgo. Who doesn't love a boy tree and a girl tree? Who doesn't love tree nuts that smell like vomit? Right. I personally do not think they smell like vomit. I don't know. I mean, they're stinky, but I feel like their stinkiness is highly overrated. Maybe if I lived in a hotter climate, maybe that's part of it. I mean, they're not good smelling, but yeah, maybe it's because I don't live in a hot climate. Maybe the next time I should really get one and like bring it. What's wrong with me? Anyway, Completely Arbitrary. I recommend. Stamp of approval. Okay, now. Okay, yes, now on to knitting. Not knitting. I already talked about no knitting. Sock. Now on to sewing. So if you're not interested in sewing, I'll talk to you next time. Okay, so I wanted to touch base. Last time I talked about my toweling that I had, and so many of you had good recommendations. I have not, I want to try several of them, but I did want to show with one of them. One of you recommended a cute idea that I had not even thought of. You actually recommended to use batting and then use it like as between two layers of the toweling, and then use it like under the dish drying rack, which was a great idea. I didn't do that, but I did think, oh, wouldn't it be interesting to use 2 layers to see what that was like? And so I did, and it is lush. This is like the fanciest dish towel ever. I highly recommend. So what I did was as you can see, I left the salvage as is. Right sides. There's no right sides because it's definitely a woven with both sides being the same. But I held it like this. Say these are frays. I did a 1/4 inch, maybe a 3/8. No, I think I did a 1/4 inch. 1/4 inch seam allowance up one side, because this is just a fold here, right? I just folded it in half. I did a 1/4 inch seam allowance. I did a 1/4 inch seam allowance. Left this open, turned it inside out, pressed it, right? So then I just top stitched here, 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 and then right along here. And then I just did I did 3 lines. I did a line here, a line here, and a line here, just so that it wouldn't like balloon out. And so now this is like a double, this fabric. I mean, this fabric is not actually available in yardage yet. This is cotton and steel. This is their weft, warp and weft wovens. I think that's what it's called. And this is like the heritage one. It's actually not available yet. Somehow I bought the half yard pack, like you can get a fat quarter pack, but the half yard pack from Green Fairy or something. But it's like not actually supposed to be out till like April, I want to say. So the yardage is not actually available yet. I don't have like an insider thing. This was just retail. Okay. But I totally want some of this fabric because it would make such a cute apron. Also pants. Also everything. If it just feels really great. It has a slight slubbiness to it. It has a great texture. It's 100% cotton, but it's lovely. Yeah, I just like it. It would also be so cute. Now this is like a white one, but I mean, it would be cute too. I don't know if it's the same as their chore coat because they had in their first Warp and Weft series, they had 3 solids that were called chore coat, and they kind of look like a similar texture, but I don't know if they're actually the same. But I would almost imagine they're the same. But anyway, they had solids that look almost like they would be the same thing. If they are, they would be so cute. If you wanted like a quilt coat but you didn't want it to be patchwork, they would be so cute as that. So like if you just wanted a solid but that was quilted, they would be so cute as that. I also want to say thank you. Somebody recommended on last week's show notes, not on the show notes, on last time's comments, that's what they're called, recommended an alternative quilted coat. And it is called, I can't remember, it's called All Is, I'm looking. It's called like All Is Well cardigan or something. Oh, come on. Do you see me taking off my glasses? I tell you, I didn't put my eye drops in this morning, so my eyes are especially crunchy. They click when I open them in the morning. It's called the All Well cardigan coat. Oh, I wish I had a bigger picture of it than that. It's very cute. Here, let me try it out. The designer actually used just and again, the thing about these is most folks are just buying vintage quilts. You know, that's the thing, is buying vintage quilts. Or again, I will even say this. Like Target has a bunch of really cute, well, at least they did in the fall. Has a lot of really cute single color like bedspreads that are quilted. Those would be super cute as these. Just saying. But anyway, so it's a single page A0, I don't know how you say that, pattern. So if you're interested in and they have something like a 49, yeah, this is like a 49 page hack option. So they have like all this different information about how to use tape for seaming if you don't want to have like bulky seams. You know, lots of different things. If, you know, there's, there are also like there are also fabrics that you can purchase that are quilted, like the, Merchant and Mills has their beautiful jacquard fabric. I might have some over there. You can buy the Cantha cloth. Merchant Mills also has that wobble gauze. Oh, that wobble gauze. So pretty. Anyway, there's lots of different things you can do. You're like, we're not interested. Hush. Sorry. I'm very interested, so I can't stop thinking about it. There's my towel. I also want to do one where I just serge the edges. I thought that was a great idea. Do a single, but man, I don't know. This double one is just so sexy. It's so rich feeling. Oh, this life I have, I just don't know. I mean, I might be getting too fancy for my own pants, although I am wearing very fancy pants, so. I'm wearing my fancy pants. So, I mean, I do get to have this towel. Okay, and so then I'm wearing my gold pants that I showed you the other day. Because what else would you wear with your... Okay, so then I can't remember if I showed you last time my ridiculous idea for a dress number one. So dress number one is a sewing pattern by 100 Acts of Sewing, who, by the way, has got something in the works. I don't know what it is, but something's coming up from her. I don't know what it's going to be. Is it a book? I don't know. I think it's going to be a book. But there's something brewing over there, and I'm excited to know what it is. So that's Sonia Phillips. And I'm so appreciative to her because she's the reason I started sewing for myself, because she's one of the first sewing patterns that I could find that was in my size. And so I'm really appreciative of her. So this is crazy. Okay, it's straight up insane, but whatever. It's going to be my like springtime garden smock. That's what I'm calling it. This is my springtime garden smock. It's not done. Shush. But I decided that I wanted to start out a quilted garment, but there was going to be like my practice one. So I wanted to have one thing that was like a known factor. And so I figured I would go with the dress number one because it's like a known thing. I know that I like that, and like that would be a good starting point. And then like I would go from there with like the quilting and the like figuring the other stuff out. So so I have my front and back pieces quilted, but they're definitely not like cut out or sewn into anything. So I did pre-wash them, and they did shrink quite a bit more than I anticipated. So what I did is actually sewed a piece to my first one, quilted it, washed it. Excuse me. And I had a shrink. I did my vertical quilting. And so I had a vertical, no, I had my shrink this way, horizontal shrink rate, which is, I would expect that to be greater than my vertical shrink because, again, the quilting would make that shrinking more. This shrink rate was like almost 9%. It's quite a bit. So I had to make my back piece a little bit bigger. But anyway, so here we go. That's totally crazy. But whatever. I'll be your grandma. It's not call me daddy, it's call me grandma. That's right. Okay, talk about having some non-stretch panties on the floor being too big. Let me just discuss. Like, oh, what? Is my butt really that big? Does this quilt make my butt look big? Right? Whatever. It's fabulous. It's ridiculous. So there's definitely going to be some patch pockets involved. Or, I don't know, I might do... I don't know. I can't decide. I might do inline pocket or inseam pockets, but I think patch pockets is really just the way to go. Maybe I'll just do like a whole like row of patch pockets, like an apron of patch pockets. I don't know. I mean, that might be visually distracting. It might make my hips look wide. That might not be slimming. You know how I'm test sewing for people? This was not on my Instagram feed. I will not be test sewing for any more people after I put that on my Instagram feed. So, I also worked on my quilt. I showed you last time I had my... Oh God, what's happening? So many threads. I had my top pieced. I have now got it quilted, and I have the binding sewn on, and now I need to finish it. So I need to tack it on. So yeah. There it is. Yay! This is my first time using wool batting. It was very easy to work with. I did do 2 samples. I kind of thought about maybe using 2 layers of wool batting. This is going to be my downstairs quilt. We have traditionally used electric blankets downstairs, but like throw blankets. But the quality is decreasing, it seems like, over time, and I don't want to have to keep replacing them. So I'm going to this. And so I thought about maybe just doing a double layer of batting because our downstairs is kind of cold. And then I thought, lots of people said that that it was very hard to do a double layer of batting. That like it would be fine if you're having it professionally long-armed. And so I just did a single layer, and I thought, well, I could always add another blanket if I really wanted to. And like that would be an excuse just to make another quilt, so that's fine. But I did want to do like a sample because I did think that maybe my my vest that I'm going to make, I might do a double layer of wool. So I just wanted to see what they would be like. So I did do a sample that was a layer of wool and a layer of cotton. And then I did a double layer of wool. And I definitely like the double layer of wool much better. To me, it has much more flexibility than the one of wool and one cotton. And it has more loft. So I'm glad I did that just to see what they would be like. It wasn't harder to sew through at all. People just, I think, is that it's bulkier. And so it's harder to manipulate. And it's heavier just to move through. But to be honest with you, I think with a layer, just like a throw size, I think it would have been fine. I don't think it would have been too problematic, but it might have been. Who knows? And you don't want to get stuck in the middle of a project and be like, so. But yeah, so I'm sewing on the binding. I did not do, you'll notice that, like, if you remember from last time when I showed you my quilt on my table, it had lots of quilting on it, and this one has much less. And that's because this one is actually for warmth. And so less quilting means more air means more warmth. So even though I love the look of lots of quilting, it decreases the amount of warmth. So there's much less quilting in this one. This is what the back looks like. Yay. I'm lucky enough to have Crimson and Tate, which is a quilt store that's like 2 miles from my house, I think. And they are doing that if you place an order online, and you drive up, they'll put your order out on a little table and you can go scamper up and pick it up. So I realized I didn't have any black quilting thread. I actually didn't have any black thread like at all, except some like super old polyester thread, which I did not trust the health of. So luckily I ran right over there and got that thread before the snowstorm hit. So I haven't started tacking down my binding yet, so that all needs to be done. But my binding is the same as the background, or the backing. So yeah, yay! It is a little bit bigger than a regular throw. It's 63 by, 56. So I had to use a twin size batting. So yeah, still working on that. Yay. It does feel very good. It's nice and warm. It's flannel on both sides, and I'm excited about it. I did mark it. I usually don't mark the quilting because I hate to. I did mark the chalk lines, and then I proceeded to just not even use them. So I don't know why I even bothered. Apparently I'm not real particular about sewing in super straight lines. I just eyeballed it mostly. I'm pleased with it overall. So yeah, that's that. And when I get it all done next week, I'll lay it out and show it to you better. But I think that is finally all for this week. I have 2 hopes for you this week. I hope that you can find joy in movement this week. Some sort of movement, whatever it is, whatever that looks like for you. I hope you can find pleasure in inhabiting, in connecting your mind and your body. I think it's far too easy as women, as adults, as thinking creatures to separate, to hold our minds above whether it's a small movement or a big movement or a fun dance in the kitchen movement or a long walk in the snow movement or a graceful arms swaying in the chair movement or a fingers touching rough cloth movement, whatever it is that you can connect and find joy in. I hope you have that moment. And I hope that you know that you can't pull yourself up by your bootstraps, because that's literally not possible. And we can't ask you to do that. And it's not fair that we have set that up as a goal. And even if you don't need help, it's okay to just, like, if it just makes it easier to have help. That's a lesson for me too. That's a path I am really, really probably far behind most people on. Like, it can just be easier to need help. That's a lesson I'm working on. But maybe it's a lesson that you need to be reminded of too. I'll talk to you next time.